What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Daily Transcendence podcast. I'm G.O.D.
And I'm Ray.
And we're your hosts. Take a journey with us into the realms of some of humanity's most inner thoughts and theories about what lies before us and beyond the other side. Take a step back with us from the day-to-day heavy burdens of this constant evolving life. From awakening the collective, astrology, the spiritual divine, holistic health, shamanism, and quantum theory, to the frequencies and vibrations of our universe, history, religion, numerology, and so much more.
We spend countless hours researching to bring you the breakdown of information from some of the greatest minds in these fields and even our own experiences. We're here to challenge your thoughts so that you can reshape your own minds and beliefs into ones that better serve you.
We hope you enjoy the discussions about the supernatural and the ancient knowledge that we have become so fond of, and we wish to share with you so that it may also help you on your quest in this human experience we're living. Let the transcendence begin. Godspeed and share on.
Like and subscribe to the Daily Transcendence on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. To show support for the show, we ask you to join us on all social media platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Patreon, and YouTube. There you can find more content, updates on new episodes, and more personal interactions from both Gio and I. We want to hear from you all and connect, so message us or email us at thedailytranscendence@gmail.com. As always, we entirely appreciate your support in allowing us to bring you this transmission. Welcome back to the Daily Transcendence.
Right, episode 18.
Episode 18, 1-8.
8.
Equals 9.
9.
Equals the number of consciousness.
Yes. We're going to do that. We're going to go into it.
We're going to go into the number of consciousness. We're going to go into the number 9, how it plays into it.
Yeah.
How the Bible's filled with numerology. Mm-hmm. But before we do that, me and Gio wanted to have a little special conversation.
Yeah. Just kind of
about
see
this
where
past year.
Yeah, see where we're at.
Yeah, we want to see where our minds are at. And I mean, we really want to reflect on what the last year that we just spent a lot of time indoors and how it affected us. And I know a lot of people are going through a lot of things right now, and obviously could have been a very negative and hard time for most people, and at least in their perspective of it. You know, people could have lost their jobs, their homes, relationships were torn apart. So many things came with this pandemic. And now we're definitely well over a year. What was it back in, did we get the news, the end of January, right?
Yeah. And then it was like more so going into that whole lockdown state of emergency. It was actually the Ides of March, or the day before. So March 15th, March 14th.
Zach from the Gematria Effect probably ate that up.
Oh, yeah. You had the Ides.
I know that Ides of March, I think with him, is like his channel was deleted or something like that. But
which,
yeah,
also,
so
that equals 9.
Say shit.
315.
Already connecting dots here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, we had a long year. It's definitely well over a year now, and we kind of really wanted to go into the opposing side of what probably a lot of people think about the pandemic is what did you gain from it?
A lot of the projections
what did you gain?
Bad.
Yeah, well, it's like, well, it goes back to what I was saying. Like people lost jobs. And if they lost their jobs, they lost money. And if they lost money, they lost their homes. And if they lost money in their homes, that relationships became torn. And if you spent a lot of time in the same house with the same people and you were miserable, that you fought with them. And so then now family is affected, and mental health was a big one. And I really think that it's time to reflect a little bit on things we have gained. We know what we've lost already. It's very easy to see what we've lost from a situation like this.
We're constantly being told too.
Right. Well, it's a lot of realizations for me of when we put our power outside of ourselves, like we had mentioned last week, is a big part of that conversation. Like when we put our power outside of ourselves and we depend on another person or a group of people or the government, that things can be easily taken away from you. And you're not going to focus on what you're gaining from something if you're constantly looking at things being taken away and things you're losing, whether it's your freedoms, or all the things I'd mentioned before with money and all your material belongings and stuff like that, and relationships, like those things are like, oh, those are me. Like those things make who I am. So like I have to have them because they define me. And from our conversation last week, why it's so important to keep the mindset like, well, the things outside of me are a part of me and they reflect a part of me, but it's not actually who I am. I just am. But you have to develop it from the inside out. And I think where we could begin with what we've gained from the pandemic is just that, the shedding of the old and the shedding of what wasn't us and what we thought was us. And we had the opportunity to go in and really, try and define who we are and start from scratch again. We could look at that. We've lost our lives, or like the things we've earned up to that point, like the story we began a long time ago, and now if that's gone, which for most people it is, a new story has to begin. But before we go into a new story, we have to say create a new character. It's a new chapter.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It starts with shifting that mindset. We constantly talk about the beliefs and how these beliefs make up a certain way of feeling in the body, and even the way we end up thinking and the way we end up doing things. So, I mean, if during that whole time, your mindset was very hyper focused on the negativity that was there, and you never found a time to shift out of that, then you started identifying with that situation and that misery. But there was ways to be able to shift out of that, despite the engulfing feeling of it, despite how much it was just constant. And even just, if you talk to anybody, that was the first thing that anybody ever talked about, was what was going on in the world and everything. But there still is that safe place within yourself and within your mind that's the thing that needed the work. That's where everything came down to, being able to be like, okay, well, I'm here now. I'm here within my mind. What am I thinking? What am I believing? How is this making me feel? So, in that problematic situation, it was easy to get sucked into the negativity of it. And then the problem was, were you going to stay there? And then if you did, most likely you spiraled into a constant loop of just this bullshit, of just feeling like nothing's changing, everything's getting worse. I have nothing, I'm lacking stuff in my life, no excitement on top of it. Relationships were being affected, wondering about your mental health, because then it's being viewed as a huge mental health crisis as well on top of it, just not even just for people with mental health issues, but just for everybody. So, and then you end up feeling like you're projecting yourself in a way in the world where it's like, oh, like now I'm like low, and then people are coming around you and you feel like that you're bringing them down. And that just causes more resistance elsewhere. So it's, where did you actually refrain from that constant negative loop? And what did you do? And if you didn't, okay, well, here's what could have been done, and also how to rewrite the story now. And like Ray said, form that new character and not be defined by maybe how you handled things. It's never too late.
No, it's never too late, but I really emphasize the fact that it was an opportunity to realize that it's not too late, and that everyone was in the same boat. Everyone was dealing with the same exact thing. Not the same exact thing, but generally speaking, their life was being turned inside out, and everyone's stories were being dismantled and taken apart, and we had to put it back together again after, and we still are. We're at a point where we're not that things are completely getting better again, but it's been over a year. I'm pretty sure we're now used to it. And if there was things we had to work out, a lot of us probably did work things out. And I'm going to say, I hope you guys did. I hope you guys did try and work it out. And that's why we want to make this part of the discussion today on, what did you do to better your situation more on the emotional and mental level. Obviously, the physical, we weren't in complete control of it, over it. We weren't in control of our income and things. And not that we could not go, we could go out and make money, but we have to discover new ways. The former ways of making cash and even going to meet new people, and if you were dating, you're trying to date, and you were going, all that changed immensely. And we had to figure out new ways. We had to improvise. But before we could do that, we had to face the music. We had to face ourselves. And that's the way I see the pandemic. You can name all of the obvious negative things that we just said mostly in the past few minutes here. But the positive, what did we gain? To me, an opportunity to redefine ourselves and to go into the mind and to try and, if we had things that we needed to work out, well, guess what? You couldn't run away from it anymore. You couldn't go, you couldn't be distracted. You couldn't go to work or go out on the weekend or this and that. And you could try, and I think a lot of people at first, and me and you have talked about this, like people saw it as an opportunity, like, yo, fuck this. I'm just going to get drunk. I'm just going to sit back and whatever. And now it's just another form of escape. Like, eventually we had to sit with ourselves, and that's what the pandemic gave us. And people flourished. I saw a lot of content creators and things and people that wanted to really work on their creative side and their self-expression. And that's all this time that we were given was that opportunity, to meditate and to drop all the definitions that we had from years and years of people telling us who we are and what we should be doing, or what we assumed from what the society standards were. But the fact that society got ripped inside, turned inside out. So now that's gone. The external things are gone. What are you left with? And the pandemic gave us that opportunity to realize, wow, this is what I'm left with. Oh, wow, I didn't even know that was there. I didn't know that trauma was there. I didn't know that pattern of mine was even there, because I was always distracted by work or other people or this and that. Now I can't even go out to the store and go buy milk without putting a face diaper on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, there was definitely a point where I think a lot of people were faced with having to, listen to the music and be like, oh shit, like, you no longer were your job. You no longer were this. Like, I mean, I could even say for myself, I got to a certain point where I was just like, wow. I'm like, okay. Like, I felt like nothing I was in the process of already doing before the pandemic seemed like it mattered anymore. It just seemed like I was like, wow, it's like everything could just be taken from you in the blink of an eye. And there's no escape from it. There's nobody, that, especially when everybody's going through it, it's not really anybody that can help you too. So it's like, how do you find that time to help yourself? And some people did, like we're saying, and that's what we're trying to, point out, is that, even including ourselves, there's things that were done or could have been done, but we're also not going to just focus on that. We're going to focus on, okay, so maybe you didn't do those things. Maybe you didn't see the situation as an opportunity to grow and get better and to be stronger, instead of focusing on the misery, and focus on understanding that there is a possible solution, or, that there's something that you could have gained from it when you moved past it. But now there's a certain point where maybe that you're like, oh, well, I feel like you may feel like things are either worse, or you just feel like, okay, like, I'm so over this. I'm done. And that's a good thing. If you're feeling like you're over it, you're fed up, you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, I feel like if you have that feeling, that's like the first start to being able to change your mindset and how you're going to start going about your days. And that's the thing that you can start by simply sitting with yourself and understanding and letting go of all the things that you thought were important, and also eliminating things that and I think we all do, what's toxic in your life. You're one of those people that are sitting there getting drunk constantly or getting high or whatever, or, eating all the time and just sitting on your ass and all this shit. Like, I get it. It sucked. I did it myself too, for a little bit, where I was just kind of like in my comfort zone, and I was like, screw it. It was almost like an excuse, but that only just made things worse. That made the mind feel even more sick. I was just kind of like, I was like, fuck, I feel like a waste. And when you start feeling like a waste, then you start treating yourself that way too. And your mind knows how to play those tricks where you just start falling into that spiral. So now it's like realizing that, and if you're still in that spot kind of, but you're ready to get out, now's the time to do it. You know, you don't want to be left behind. You know, there's this whole thing. And like we said, like there's so many people that started businesses, got educations during this time, or educated themselves, you know, or found alternative ways to create an income, or got more involved in their communities. Also people that despite all the staying away from family and stuff, they actually became closer and found ways to get closer with their family as well. You know, these are the productive types of things that, you know, we're talking about, finding the opportunity in a bad situation, you know, and once again, it's not too late. So now you got to really ask yourself, what is it that I truly love? Why do I want to even do what I'm doing? And you can look at the things you're already doing. Why are you doing them? Do they actually bring you joy? Do they really benefit you in such a way, or are they just a distraction from what you really need? And maybe you don't know what you need, but that's where this whole thing comes in.
Yeah, that's what needs to be figured out.
Yeah. So how do we do that?
That's where, and that's my point with this pandemic being an opportunity, and it's something to gain from it. You know, the first thing I gained, definitely, and I've had this mindset for a long time, but when I finally got to see it actually happen in real time, where our material life, when it comes to money and jobs and people and all that, these external things being so, you know, easily taken away from, like to have it so easily ripped away from you, made me realize even more, like if I put all my efforts and all my energy into these things outside of me, and I don't know, on the outside, these things mean more than the things on the inside. Because if I have a purpose, and if I have a mission, and I have an understanding of who I am, and what brings me, what's that new term I learned today? Eudaimai or eudaime, which is in like Greek. It was like it's like it battles the word happiness. Like it's the opposite. Like happy is just this like happening, like it's luck. But there was this state. I gotta have to look up the word, but it was a Greek word, and it was just like living the best life according to you, and not what anyone else says. Like it's just being in that state of like, I'm in a state of enjoyment and contentment constantly, and I'm not looking for happiness. I'm not looking for something to happen to cause me to feel a certain way. I just am that way, you know? And what you got to realize is the things on the outside, those external things that could be taken away from you, you know, your money and your belongings. And like, if you have a nice car, like someone could crash into it tomorrow, or it could be repoed, or it could be whatever, something, it could be stolen. Like things could be taken away from you. But if you find that inner core of your own being and figure out what truly makes you happy, then, whatever the word was, not even just happy, but you're in a...
Is it eudaimonia?
Yeah.
Eudaimonia. Okay.
Eudaimonia or something like that.
It's EUDAI.
Did you see my Facebook post?
No, I kind of just looked it up to see if I could find it. It's a Greek word commonly translated as happiness or welfare. However, more accurate translations have been proposed to be human flourishing, prosperity, and blessedness.
There you go.
Eudaimonia.
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 Thank you, Ken Wheeler. Thank you so much. Anyway, so yeah, I did learn that today, and there's a good example. I love to learn, and I love to understand things, and it's why we do this podcast. And we have a lot of topics we want to go into again. And now that we're settled and we're riding this wave where we have our system rebuilt, and, you know, we had to go through a lot of realignment and readjustment. That retrograde's coming, by the way, Mercury. So obviously more readjusting is going to happen. but we're on that wave. And so talking about this, right? I've personally used the pandemic to try and enter that state of eudaimonia, of that, if I started like a book collection a long time ago, but I realized right now my electronics, and they're still material items, but my electronics and certain things could be shut off, or I cannot, like an internet could go off, but books are forever. And that's why I buy books.
Yeah.
And if you just left me in a room for a whole year, like this pandemic carried on, and I just had books and I just had to study, like obviously things get old, but that state for me is learning and understanding and exploring. And it's why I can't stand people that are so kind of like hung up and emotional about beliefs. Because I discovered about myself is just the exploration of thought is something that keeps me content. It keeps me in that happy feeling, And I discovered that through the pandemic. Like, this is what makes Ray happy. And not by luck, but that's who I am. And because I know that, you can't take that away from me now. You'd have to beat me over the head with a bat, and I'd have to become like brain damaged for you to take that away from me. But that makes me happy, and I could live with that the rest of my life. I just started discovering these things. You can't with money or anything like that. It's going to come, it's going to go. But knowledge, say, is forever. Memories and experiences are forever.
Yeah.
And these are things that could carry you through the rest of your days. Your money's going to go, your car's going to, come and go. People are going to come and go. So the pandemic was an absolute opportunity to find those ways of entering the state of eudaimonia.
Yeah. And then whether you did or whether you didn't, I mean, you still can, but, are you making, and this doesn't necessarily mean money, but are you making the investments within yourself that give you value? And like I said, not necessarily money. Yes, you can do things like...
not just crypto,
yeah, just crypto and fucking, whatever. Yeah, I get it. We all need money. Understandable. That's how the structure of society is right now. And, that's how you have to, a way to survive as well.
It's a part of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But how are you creating value in yourself of some things that give you that eudaimonia that you're saying too? Like, how are you being able to fulfill something within inside you to give you that sense to be like, hey, like, okay, so say like for instance, us going into certain the topics that we go into, and I know we stressed it before, but I'm going to say it again. A lot of it, especially the ancient teachings and the esoteric knowledge and all that, is because of the fact that there was something being said all the time, and there was something to be learned. If they were repeating it that many times, there was something that needed to be known, and it was something that had to deal with within you. Remember, they didn't have the distractions of cell phones and computers and media and all these things. They had to literally deal with themselves and survival and, tyranny at times too, and whatever their cultures were consistent of that time. And to face those certain darknesses darknesses within themselves, they had to sit there and they had to know and they had to learn and they had to understand and philosophize about life. So therefore, that's why this information is important when we go into things about like maybe, the theological stuff or astrology, anything of that wisdom, and to see how these other civilizations, how they dealt with it. And also the things that we know that happened during those ancient times that needed to be dealt with. There was plague, there was pestilence, there was all of that as well, So with all of that occurring, think they were able to sit there and they had mead and wine and they could get drunk and do all that shit too. But there was a point where it's like shaking down the mind and being like, hey, you know what? Like, I need to be able to see that this is not everything. This world, yes, I may be in it and I may be a part of it, but I am not from it necessarily. I yes, I am physically here and physically was birthed on this earth, but understanding the deeper philosophies about life and origin stories and all the spiritual teachings and the Hermeticism and everything, that was important. So why, if it was important then, why is it not important now? And I think the importance of it now is to understand and to be able to realize and open up to be able to create that value within ourselves that go beyond material things, that make us back into understanding that, holy shit, we are these spiritual beings. We are something that is so much greater than all of this. And especially with the fact that, I don't know about most people, there's certain people that are following the agenda, but a lot of people felt like they really saw how they were pawns in a chess game, big time. Now, I know for myself, I saw it, I felt it, like
it's not that hard to see it.
Yeah, and and that wasn't okay, and that got people moving enough on its own, and that was a big reason. And this is why. And you've seen a lot of uprising, you've seen a lot of anger, you've seen a lot of pain and hurt and everything. Does that mean that you should shy away from it or ignore it or be ignorant about it? No. I mean, it's the same thing as within, so without. Yes. So that pain is going on out there, and there's that darkness out there. What about the darkness that's within you? You need to look at it. Look at it.
Well, the problem with and I'll say especially Americans,
coddled,
is that right, pampered and everything. Not that, like, yeah, we have to work really hard, a lot of us, and go earn our money, but it's like we still live like very, like, even the lower class and lower middle class still live better than most third world countries, if not all of them.
Yeah.
But my actual focus is realizing how people know it all already.
Yeah.
And when you know it all, I think that it shuts off your imaginative functions. Like, because you know it already, you're actually not using your imagination as much as you would if you acted like you knew nothing. And I actually have a quote from Ken Wheeler, and I live by this now. That is definitely a part of my outlook, but it says, "The basis for all of my wisdom is that I know nothing." And when you come from that mindset, you give yourself the ability to entertain thoughts without believing them. And then when you do that, your imaginative faculty, that's like a whole part of your brain, by the way. Like, what happens if I were to go to the gym and just work out my right arm and not work out my left arm? Right?
Yeah.
One, it would look ridiculous. Two, there's a disadvantage, right?
Yeah.
If I go to carry a really heavy box, I can't carry the left side of it because
carrying that shit lopsided.
Right. And now you want to be able to pick it up. Yeah. So when it comes to the brain, and like when we know it all, it ends up shutting off that imaginative faculty because we're always just in this state of thinking we know it all, and we're not expanding our mind and entertaining new thoughts. And when you don't entertain new thoughts, man, where do you think depression even comes from? It's a loop of the same old shit, So once again, you sit in a pandemic and you think you have like, oh, nothing's going on, I'm fucking bored. Like, I have nothing. All these material things are disappearing. I don't even know what to do with myself. Like, I can't go get pussy, or I can't go fucking whatever, like dudes and shit like that. I can't go on Tinder anymore and swipe fucking left because fucking I got to wear a mask and like whatever, like all this dumb shit.
And even just verbalizing like that too. That has a frequency on its own.
Oh, it does completely. I think it's gross. Mm-hmm. And I can't stand it. Like, toxic masculinity is so really annoying. Yeah. And toxic femininity is also gagging as well.
There needs to be a balance.
Yeah, and we're imbalanced. Mm-hmm. But my point with when we know it all and we shut off the imaginative faculty, we've now shut off a part of our brain, and then we're in the loop of the same thoughts. And taking the time out to learn is important. Dude, you live in an age where everything's in your phone. Like, there should be no reason to be bored. You can go take a class on anything you want. You can go search up anything you want. And it even down to conspiracy theorists, like, because we had David Weiss on and we talked a lot about flat earth, like for me, right? Like, I just want to learn and see things. Like, you can't talk to people about certain things without getting all emotional, and it's about their beliefs. It's like, you really believe that? You're really going to look into something like the flat earth or this and that? It's like, what are you, stupid? It's like, dude, all over Instagram, I actually see people follow flat earth pages just to say, oh, you're fucking stupid. You're this and that, because they know it all. You know, like, why don't you just entertain the thought? Like, why do you have to be just so indoctrinated and so like, I know what I know already? It's like, were you up in space or this and that? And that's just, and I'm bringing that topic up because it's a real obvious one, but could it be with anything?
Yeah.
You know, the murder of JFK, 9/11, all the conspiracy theorists, the pandemic, what happened? How did the virus come to be? Are we being shammed? Like, but people come off like, you know, like, oh, no, Trump's definitely a racist. No, he's a racist. It's like, do you ever meet the guy? No, I heard what he said. He's a racist. Yeah. It's like, no, you're just a know-it-all. And you've been completely consumed by your beliefs. And dude, there's the source of your depression, your anxiety, or your misery. Because giving yourself the ability to use your imagination again and opening up to things, and, you know, goes back into our point of meditation. You know, when you were talking about meditation with Dispenza's work. Yeah. You're dropping those thoughts.
Yeah. And I think that's like if you want a beginning point of, you know, besides the beginning point of making that choice to change the mindset and to change your habits and to change how that's your mindset, changing how you identify with things and everything. That's this really the main other part about it, is to be able to sit there and to be absent of those thoughts and release those thoughts. And I know it's hard because people probably like hear that and be like, I can't. When I sit there, if I try to meditate, I close my eyes, I hear the fridge going, I hear cars whizzing by, I hear this or whatever. I get it. And there's plenty of things out there to help you with guided meditations. And I do suggest that in the beginning, maybe sometimes for certain people, maybe they need a little of that guidance to know of maybe how to break out of those things. And it takes time, it takes practice. But once you do, you're able to drop all identification of any sound you hear, of even identifying with your body and who you are, you know, in this world, and to be able to go into this void. You know, your conscious awareness ends up going into this void, and you're able to bring that conscious awareness into even the micro, even to go in the space around your heart. You know, not in your heart, you could go in there too as well, but even the space around it. You know what I mean? Like really diving into there and that being the void, because if you've listened to previous episodes where we've talked about that and even gone into Joe Dispenza's stuff as well, how, and even Greg Braden, how they speak of this field, this innate intelligence that's within the field, that it's almost space within space, and it's not actually empty. And that is an unknown on its own, you know, and we are pulling from the unknown where there is multiple possibilities of the reality we experience. Which all exist simultaneously. So, you know, if you're allowing yourself to go into that field and not identify with, you know, oh, I have to make this phone call, or, oh, this type of thing happened to me with my ex back then and I'm still hurt from it, or I'm not in the career I want and everything. If you could let that go for a little while and totally just open yourself up to it and envision and feel and believe in the space you want to be, that you're there and that you feel what it is that you would be feeling as that person in that moment of time with all those things, you know, you start to begin to obtain that in a way. And it all comes back to that part of manifestation, which we've talked about, that there's a lot of misconception with that too. You know, there is free will. You're not going to, and that's the other thing with expectation of being like, oh, well, I'm going to get it. Yeah. It's a good attitude sometimes to have with it, but like to be like, I'm going to get it and I'm going to get it at this time, or I'm going to get it this way. Like, not necessarily. That's the thing, is to drop the expectations of how you're going to get that phone call of that job you want, or, you know, if it's even going to be that job, or if you're going to get that promotion. Maybe you're not going to get that promotion. You're actually going to get fired, and you're going to end up actually getting hired into a better job for some reason. And you may look at it as miserable that you got fired, and you may be really upset and depressed about it and stuff too. But that's the other thing. It's if you're able to stay in that mindset by doing these meditations and by being able to still yourself in that way and do it more often, you will be able to go with the flow of life in a lot better of a sense and stop being so much in competition with nature and with life and the universe. And you better can create that union with life instead. So main thing though is, like we said, making that choice and then starting to be able to know how to sit with yourself and completely go into a void. But also once you're there in that void, You do it enough times too, and you have to constantly do it. I don't think there's ever a time where it's like, oh, I don't need to meditate anymore, but meditation becomes easy. You know what I mean? Meditation becomes something that you could do in any state. You don't have to be sitting there cross-legged in the dark, eyes closed, whatever. You could be doing it while you're at work for a couple minutes or so, when you're in the bathroom. There's certain points you could get to it. There's levels with it. But yeah, so there's that point then. And then when you're in that point is remembering why. Why do you want to do something, or why do you want something, or why do you want to break out of something? Why, what excites you? What is there that you can gain from moving past anything that you used to go into, or any of the thoughts that you used to indulge, or the beliefs that you used to indulge. You got to open your mind to those things.
It's about getting out of your own way.
Yeah. And that's really, really it. It's not that complicated. I don't want to say that much more on it, because it's in the sense that that's the problem, is it gets complicated. Even for myself going into it, I know that I complicated even meditation for the longest time. Like I just, felt like it was supposed to be this mystical experience and everything and stuff. And then I felt like I noticed that I was going to a place of knowing instead of going to a place of unknown. And yes, it's good. Curiosity is great, and to be curious of things and to want to experience certain things and to have a certain knowing of things. Yes, absolutely. Like we say, Ray, he has his books and everything. We sit there and we go into information, and we like to know, and we like to open up our realms, but there's a difference between that and trying to know it and figure it out and everything, then rather than to sit there and hear it out, see the information, see what's going on. But then you don't just stop there. You allow it to sit with you. You resonate with it. You meditate on it, and you're connecting with it in more of a feeling base, to see the open realms and to see that there's what types of possibilities are there in that unknown space. Not just going into what this paper says, or this book says, or this video says. And that's another misconception as well with it. So it's doing that. And then, like I said, if you struggle trying to go into that, you can use models. It's okay to use models, but then you have to make it back to your authentic self. If you model something successful and you allow tactics and motivations to come into your field of view, and you can begin to not put so much importance on the negative situations and rather put the importance on what's next or after the situation, or how you're going to take corrective action, that's the start to get into that momentum. And once you're in that momentum, then you bring it back to you. You once again go back there and you bring it back to you, and you're able to sit with it, and you're able to now put your own genuine heart field into it, and create in that way of your own successful way that's genuine to you. So,
yeah, well, it's about getting out of your own way. It's about it goes back to my know-it-all thing. Like if you're not happy, and that you realize that your external things aren't satisfying your needs, or something's wrong, and you're being honest with yourself, like meditation is getting out of your own way and saying that you know nothing. And when you do that, you give your own mind, let it do the work. It's gonna think anyway. You can't stop thinking. So it's always gonna be there, that so-called monkey mind I mentioned last week. It's just going to be there. But if you learn to comment, I like the analogy of if you have a rapid, crazy a puddle, or lake of water or whatever, think of your mind like this body of water, and it's all over the place, it's waves and it's crashing and it's whatever, and it's like a metaphor for your thoughts. You're not going to calm it down by hitting it with a blunt object. If you're going to try and smooth it over, you just rustle the water more. But if you just allow the waters to just calm themselves, and you learn, of course you're going to suck at it first. Anything you do at first that you don't do all the time, you're going to suck at. But let's all be honest. At one point we all couldn't write with a pencil, but when I'm sitting in kindergarten, I'm feeling like a fucking moron. I can't do cursive, or whatever the hell. Anything. Of course you're going to suck at it, but meditation is allowing yourself to get out of your own way And you, like, your mind will do the thinking for you. You'll figure it out. But most of us know it or know it all. It's like we all get in our own way. We want to think of the answers directly, like logically, left brain. It's like, no, turn that off. And we're going to go into plenty of conversation, by the way, with that. Mm-hmm. Like we have a lot of teachings of certain things being talked about with meditations, whether it's the Bhagavad Gita in ancient cultures or even the Bible and stuff like that, where they talk about like just take no thought, like the kingdom of heaven is within you, and it's just a matter of discovering it. And if you allow yourself to drop into that and allow the universe to do the work for you and work through you, then all of that stuff it will serve you. It's not just about relaxing and shutting off the mind just so you can sit and relax. It's, answers will start coming to you. You'll start receiving divine, messages and stuff. And when I say divine, I just mean things that you needed to hear will just come. You'll just, all of a sudden, these things start to happen. It happened to me a long time ago. This is where I knew that this information was valid because of my experiences. It's because I was in a miserable spot in my life. And then all of a sudden I started following these certain lessons and teachings I was gathering from a lot of this stuff. And it always led back to just like, hey, just allow things to be. Just be. We're human beings, not human doings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It allows for emotional, mental, and physical healing, being able to do that. I mean, if you're saying that when you're connecting with the divine and you are receiving some sort of message, I mean, look at how the body does that on its own. I'll just give one example. Is about the fact that when our body needs to create something within the body, like say a nutrient or white blood cells or something, there is a message that is pinned off into the body through the hormones, and the hormones are released to send and carry those messages to the cells, which tell the cells, hey, you need to construct yourself this way so you can protect yourself, or hey, you need to do this, whatever the case may be. And if we know that as above, so below, as within, so without, it's the same thing. It's the same thing that goes on with your mind and into the divine as well, is that you need to be able to receive those messages the same way, where there's only so much that science can explain. So yes, that logical side of it is great. It's interesting. It's fun to know. And we're absolutely 100% interested in it. And we think it's also a great way to communicate with people who don't have a spiritual sense as well, that aren't maybe open to it as well, and maybe they want to be. Maybe they want to be, but they can't quite grasp the mystical language yet. And maybe just the actual physical understanding of it will help them to be able to take in the mystical sense of it, to be able to better feel it and believe it, because that's the most important part of it. I think that's why when we see things like Christianity and stuff, like, there's a big importance on the faith, and there's a big importance on the belief of these things. But even in those sense, there's counterintuitive ways of believing and to have faith. And, we know about blind faith, and that's the other thing. And that's why what we want to start going into now that we've touched up on these certain things and have shown this way, is to really break down some of those ecclesiastic studies and really go into things like these ancient texts and scriptures and like the Bible, everything, and show those allegories. Now that we understand how these things are allegories, and how do we understand them as the allegories that they are, even the mythologies that we've seen in Greek and Roman times, and even other times as well, that that they were used in coercion with the Bible as well, and with other types of holy scriptures. So, there is something to gain from those, and we need to make that known. There's people that already do believe. I said all the time, there's people that do believe already and stuff, and it works for them because they have that sense of connection and can get in that mystical sense of things. But for those of us that aren't so easily, and we need to say, you're somebody who just needs to know, and it needs to make sense. It needs to make logical sense to you. Okay, fine. This can help you make logical sense of it, but from that point, then it's that's only the 10% of your mind and stuff. You have to open up the other 90% to the things that are unknown, the things that are unexplainable, the things that you can only intuitively feel. and that's what we're going to go into, and by breaking those things down and what they mean, in these next few episodes and so, and on the show. So
yeah, well, let's be honest. As we called it, the Daily Transcendence is in the transcendence to move above things and to see them for what they are. And it's been a topic for me, talking with a few friends, and of course Gio, but many others, is because I talk to all my friends about enlightening topics and just those deep thought conversations always. And it's about getting down to the point of a definitive truth. Like, we live in a matrix, right? We live in a reality where obviously our beliefs mean everything, but our beliefs are subjective. They're to how we see things. But there is definitive truths, but definitive truths within the confines of the matrix. Like, obviously beyond the 3D realm, anything and everything's possible. In the quantum realm, anything and everything already happened, and anything can happen. But when it comes down to it, in this linear experience that we have right now in the present moment, that we are confined by the 3D matrix because we're in this body, right? So the thing is there is definitive truths. Down from what the religions truly are getting at and what they truly mean, right? So there is a definitive truth to all those texts, whether they're allegorical or literal, and the allegorical proves to be the winner, in my opinion, on that, because it ends up being archetypal and making sense to things that go on within us and in the body and our consciousness and all that. But it goes with even the whole flat earth debate, that we technically don't know these things. So it's time to get down to the definitive truth. Like, the earth is something. We are somewhere. But where are we really? If we're going to act like we know it all, and we think that we have, like, oh yeah, well, NASA goes up, they take pictures, and we went to the moon, and the government said that we went, and I there's a YouTuber that I watched, and he says that flat earth people are retarded and stuff like that, and we just go by these hunches, and we just go by things we're told without experiencing the journey of looking for ourselves and thinking for ourselves. Like, we have to get into the habit of thinking for ourselves, not going to a website or just one YouTube video or just from one source. Like, it's time to explore. And that's another reason why this pandemic was an opportunity, and it is an opportunity. It is time for you not only to explore yourself, but explore the world around you. Where are we really? What are we really? If you're going to sit there and be like, I guess I'll find out after I die. It's like, well, dude, you're in the age of information. You have the Akashic records on a screen right in front of you. You could go look up anything and find out. And yes, I know there's that whole argument with, you can go prove whatever it is you want to prove. And there's a deeper theory to that, where it's like, hey, maybe we create our own reality to the point where we do create the reality where what we believe is to be true. But I do think that is subjective. I believe in the 3D realm where we're at today, present moment, in this world, that there is definitive truths. There are things to be discovered, whether they are about ourselves or they're about the world. And if we start doing that, we turn on that imaginative faculty again, maybe that wonder kicks up again, that childlike wonder that we had when we were kids. Stop taking everything so serious. Stop making everything about, like, I know what I'm talking about. I feel comfortable in my beliefs. I feel secure. It's like, well, maybe that's just the thing that is making you so miserable and depressed, and you just don't realize that you're making everything so stiff. Open your mind up. Explore thoughts, explore theories. You don't got to jump into conspiracy theories and be like, yo, the government's fucking trying to take over the world. Just explore the ideas.
Yeah.
How you would, like, watch a movie, listen, discuss, talk things out with people. The information may come to you that you need to come. Just let down your guard. And meditation is the beginning to all of that.
Yeah, and exactly, because those things can bring on those appropriate feelings. You got to remember, though, that our thoughts are not our own. Our thoughts are not our own. And how many times has the thoughts that come up in our head and our beliefs, how long they have been passed down through generations. And, we take them as definitive truths because of the fact that, yeah, it's just, if everybody's in agreement of it, then we're going to take it as a truth. But that doesn't necessarily make it that definitive truth a lot of the times. So to explore things that go against it is not a bizarre thing. And we also have talk about passed down beliefs. The way our science and history teaches us, it teaches us that, basically that matter came before the mind, that the material world came before our, before the intellectual mind. And I don't think that's necessarily true. There was an innate intelligence, whether you want to say Big Bang or whatever the hell you want to say, in the creation of the universe and everything, like, no matter what, that there was some sort of spark or some sort of thought. And that's just to say it in a way that we can understand. But it was a mental thought or activity that occurred to put matter into something that is perceivable. And that's why, and then so if that's the case, then it's like, the mind is the root of it, and the intellectual side of it is the root of it. So to go into those questions, to go into that thinking of things as well, and to harmonize with it, to be able to bring it into a sense of understanding, but not necessarily understanding with your logical mind, but understanding with your intuitive mind, and with your feelings, and what seems right with you, and what sits with you as well. That's the place of which to get, and that's why, if we say, to get to that point, we said went through the whole thing of, being able to know your why, and then modeling something successful until you get into your own and you find your own genuine path as well. If that's what you need to do, the next thing is focusing on teachable lessons, seeing what you can learn from them, and to learn that there's nothing to gain from arguing it, or resentment, or revenge, or shame of a thought, or guilt, or any type of those harsh feelings towards something that comes into your awareness, is to be able to greet everything into your awareness without judgment, so that you can better facilitate it through your body, not just your mind, but through your body, and to develop a more wider perspective of it, so that you can broaden your beliefs a little bit, so it's not something that's so definitive in times that creates you to have a bias. And because those biases can keep you closed off from many things, and those many things that are closed off from you can be things that really are beneficial in your life. And then you may sit there and wonder, well, why is this happening to me? Why don't I have this? Or whatever. And it all comes down to, it's you. It's not anybody else's fault but your own. So that's where the openness is key to staying in that way. So you have to take that recursive action, break it down in that way if you need to. If this is something that's new to you and you haven't gone in that way, but you have the inkling, trust your gut, and you have that inkling to be like, hey, like, something needs to change because this just ain't it. Go about it that way, maybe, Yeah,
well, experiment. The thing is just not beating yourself up too much, or trying to force yourself into I gotta figure it out. It's like, sometimes it's just time to relax and let it come to you. And we're taught in this day and age of pushing through, like penetrating that masculine energy of driving into wherever it is you're going. Like, sometimes like there's detours, and sometimes there's stop signs, and there's traffic, and you just have to just sit there and allow things to happen. And think of like the path of life as kind of like the parkway. Sometimes you get off on exits, sometimes you get back on, sometimes there's traffic, sometimes there's car accidents. Like, life's just a journey. And I think it's getting out of our heads, getting out of our own way and getting out of our heads is very important. That whole like balance of stop taking everything so serious. Like, you don't need that perfect relationship right now. You don't need the perfect job and all the money. Like, you can't go buy those nice things. Well, boo-hoo. Like, it's if you're fed and you have shelter and this and that, like, you're living better than a lot of like millions and millions of people. And you have to, in those moments, think that way. Like, there's so much depression, and there was a lot of suicide last year, and mental health and stuff. And it's because I don't think we're primed for situations as simple as just learning to be with yourself.
Yeah, just survive.
Like a lot of people just can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to be okay with just being and just being there, just being alive. And I know that's hard. I've definitely had a hard time with that a lot of the times. Felt like there was something that I needed to be doing, or that, you know, I wasn't where I wanted to be in life and stuff. But also it's also taking in the fact of having to accept the fact that there's social norms that when you really break them down, you really look at them, and it's like, who's to say you're supposed to be married at this age? Who's to say that you're supposed to be in your job or your career or know what you want to do in the outer world at this time, or, you know, how you're supposed to be doing, or what is it that's successful? If it's true to you and it excites you and it makes you happy, and it's something that you really resonate with, and it's something that's bringing a harmony to yourself and to your fellow man as well, then go towards that. That's what excitement is. It's, you know, we've constantly brought, you know, especially with Darwinism and everything, we've adapted this concept that, you know, survival of the fittest, and that everything is competition. You know, I said it before, but we're not to be. I don't think our natural spiritual selves, and when I say spiritual, I don't mean, like, I use that term loosely, because spiritual can be many different things. It doesn't necessarily have to be
emotional.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be you're sitting on a yoga mat,
not of the physical,
crystal up your ass and all that. Like, I'm nothing against all that.
Rubbing amethyst on your gooch and all that,
and nothing against all that. We like to joke
using the amethyst,
right up your ass. We got to make it see. That's what I mean. Don't take it too seriously. Even this shit, we're not going to take it too seriously. So, you know.
Laughter feeds the soul.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I had even myself.
I've learned to laugh more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, and I think, but even like laughter though, like a lot of people like find laughter in darkness or dark humor or other people's misery. It's like, I think sometimes maybe we shouldn't completely find our laughter in other people's suffering.
Yeah.
Like, it's good to make things of light, but I think like a lot of people will be like, oh, well, laughter is like the best medicine and shit like that. But they'll like use the laughter that it, like their animosity towards people in life is the fuel for the laughter, not the whole like just laughing about it because it's just like, why am I taking this so serious?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
that's, I mean, you have to be respectful, respectful about it.
To an extent.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, behind closed doors, be as whatever the hell you want with your
you're in your own thoughts.
Or whatever. Yeah. And in your own thoughts, like obviously all of us have dark thoughts and we all go through those periods like, man, why the fuck was I thinking that?
I mean, you just got to make sure that it's not
really bad.
Feeding your subconscious to then perpetuate that shit out into the world and into society itself. Because you may be doing that behind closed doors. That's a delicate thing on its own. And like, that's something else on its own to sit there and meditate with, and to be able to understand a fine balance. Everything is balance. Everything is energy. Everything is vibration and frequencies. You know, Tesla said it himself. Like, once you understand that, you understand the universe. You know, and I don't think it means that you need to understand it completely and that you're going to understand the universe completely. But I think it leads you to being able to cooperate with the universe. That's why I say don't be in competition with the universe and nature. It's to create a union and a balance with it. And then to realize that there is no loneliness, because your consciousness is constant, and it's a constant engagement with the universe and with life. And even after you die, that's the other thing too, is because we feel like we're on this ticking time clock. And yes, everybody wants to live out their life to the best experience, and they want to be remembered here on this earth. But when it comes really down to it, there is no death. Ray said it 100 times. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Okay. So, and for those that believe in heaven and hell or whatever and stuff, like, that's the same concept. You're being taught that, you know, I mean, there's a lot to be said about that, which we'll go into, but that's the same thing. Like, it's pretty much telling you that it's like, hey, like, this isn't it. So if this isn't it, why take this so seriously? You know? And
I have, sorry, finish your thought.
Yeah, I was just saying that if you're taking this so seriously, you know, you got to remember, and taking your possessions so seriously and your positions, you know, so seriously, you know, you got to remember, you came into this world with nothing, and you're going to leave with nothing. So what's the point of carrying that emotional and psychological baggage then, you know?
Well, food for thought here. What now? We don't technically, you know, someone could say they know what happens with life after death, but there's always a lot of what ifs. Okay. And this is why maybe you shouldn't just like you can contemplate and speculate and then assume kind of and know you're assuming like you're taking a wild guess at like this is probably what happens. Like I think this is what happens. Mm-hmm. But here's a what if in food for thought. What if where you go after you die is where you think you're going to go? Would you want to go there? You know what I mean? Not just heaven and hell. Your own idea of it.
Yeah.
So you think heaven is a beach with a bunch of naked women having orgies. You know? That sounds great, right? For eternity, just go, you know. That could potentially be the heaven that you experience if you were a good boy, you know? Or you know, or you go to a place where, you know, chicks would probably want to go to a place where they're the perfect Instagram model and their tits are the perfect size and they're getting all the attention, like whatever. They're the queen of their like own little universe. Or hell, right? Like for me, hell is like being stuck in a Jersey Mike's in purgatory where the line just never stops. Like it just keeps going.
And you're running out of tomatoes.
And you're running out of tomatoes. And then on top of that, all of a sudden you see like a bus filled with like old people and like a bunch of slow people, like because I worked there for so long, like dude, that would be purgatory.
This is actual events.
What if though, right? Now let's say I end up being a bad boy and I get, and my whole thing, right? If I had like assumed that this is how it happens, is you're going by the vibration so when you die and you're in a state, that state that you were in when you died is what you carry into that next experience. And so not maybe, yeah, obviously reincarnation is a thing. Remember, because this is just speculation, it's just a theory. But let's just say for a short period of time, that in between time, you got to experience that vibration that what you were most dominantly when you were passing away, right? And so it would make sense, by the way, that if you commit suicide, think about the vibration of suicide. You're in, you know, depression, the deepest, darkest, whatever, and you leave here with that, and then that next place you go, it will match it. And your idea of it, like your own soul's idea of that vibration, like its own projection of misery. And that's where you go. So what if that?
Yeah, it seems very
just a thing to contemplate.
Yeah, it seems very worth it then to really shift your mindset and the way you're feeling and the way you're believing and what frequency you're on. Then, you know, it's people. It's possible. Like, yeah, you can go to church and you think heaven and hell and this and that. If that's what you want to invest in, you know, like if you think you're going to meet Jesus after this lifetime, and that's, you know, maybe you get that, but maybe I get something different because I don't follow just that signature or archetype of beliefs. Like, but maybe your idea of heaven is you're going to be up on a cloud with angels and harps and you're going to be with Jesus and he's going to be wearing sandals and looking like a hippie and you're going to be praising him and all that. Like maybe that's just what it is. But regardless, wouldn't you like double check yourself then? It's like, oh, maybe I should clean up my act and clean up my vibration. And when I say vibration, let's just say that my emotion, my energy in motion. So like my concepts, where my consciousness is. Right? And you'll get in this perpetual state or this cycle until you break out of it. And so you gotta experience that vibration. You gotta experience those lifetimes until you break out of it. And if you're becoming aware in this lifetime, and at least the ability to think for yourself, take advantage of it. You're in an age where you have a thing that finds anything you want. Go find it. Go make yourself happy. How you say it? Eudremonde? It said eudaimonia.
Eudaimonia.
Yeah,
eudaimonia. And that's just the way that's why I'm emphasizing what Ken says. But yeah, like let's just get out of our own way. Like let's just stop taking our beliefs so serious. Like you can believe things. When I say these, like if you want to believe, believing makes you feel, but is it really serving you? You know, like what's the harm? Like, this is a problem with like a lot of the churches. They told you that if you don't believe what they believe, that you were going to a bad place. And that was always my problem with it, it's like you're basically putting me in this spot where you're like, so now if I don't follow what you're just telling me to think, that I get punished for it. But it to me would not make any sense.
I also think what that does though too. You're talking about like, okay, so you're put in like this fear state, and if you're made, because I mean, fear is a strong emotion, just like love's a strong emotion. But if you're in a fear state like that from something, and you are taking that seriously and you're believing it hardcore, you know, because your belief in it is because of the fact that you really don't want that. You don't want that to happen. So with that, it just seems like you're attracting whatever's in that type of vibration, that type of frequency is within that fear, and you're going to get more of the fearful state things, and the negativities come on your way, and you're going to react to all of them and stuff. And that's why I think when it says don't take yourself too seriously, but also the things that you truly want to see occur in your life and manifest, you know, and it's believing that they can happen and believing that they are happening, and you're just trying to tap into them. That's something to take seriously. To take serious, because that's how the attraction works, because you do have to believe it and seriously believe it in the fact that it's there, it's possible, it's attainable, you know, you already have it, you know, however way it wants to be said, you know, that's something to take seriously. But if you're taking serious something of a negative standpoint, whichever way you're perceiving that as negative, then you're most likely bringing that into your awareness and into your field. So, you know, that's the thing, you know. And then also it's, you know, stop living for tomorrow. You know, we're so hung up on the next day, and we're here now, you know, or we're hung up on the past, or we're hung up on yesterday. We're hung up on what happened. You know what I mean? I love that saying where it's like, you know, you have, I forget what the exact number is, but you have $81,000 in your bank account, and you realize somebody stole $10, you know, what are you going to do? Are you going to go about your day, or are you going to say, whatever, it's $10? Well, it's the same thing. You have like 81,000 something minutes in a day and stuff. And there could be something that takes up 10 seconds of your life. The 10 seconds of your life that just was a shitty moment. Are you going to sit there and waste the other fucking 80,990 seconds that are left in the day? No, you're going to see it just see, when you look at it that way, it doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? You know, so that's why it's the other thing is to not get hung up on shit, you know, not get hung up on the negative feeling as well, because then also you're creating that for the rest of the moment as well. And maybe for multiple moments moving forward. So,
yeah, well, here's another thing to point out is usually people are either trying to not digress, but divert, right, from pain, and then they're looking for a reward. So it even goes into, say, people who go to church. Like, I'm going because if I don't go, I'm going to feel pain, but if I go, I will be rewarded. And I think that polarity and that paradigm is poisonous, because then in anything we do, it's like, I can go help that. I can go give that bum $5 right now, but am I going to be rewarded from it, or am I going to need that $5 to buy myself pizza later? Like, pain, pleasure. Like, we're always looking for a give and take, and it's like, let's just drop that. You know, drop polarity for. I'm not saying all the time. Like, of course, you need to use your logic, but like with ideals, right? Like the whole bum situation is like a real life thing. You know, you give that guy $5, it's gonna be fine. Like, you're not gonna need it most of the time. But with church, it's an ideal. So you're doing something. A lot of people do it because they think they're going to be either one, rewarded, or two, not feel pain. And like I said, it's a dangerous paradigm. Like, are you actually going for a purpose for yourself, or it's just because there's going to be some sort of sensation that you're either getting away from or that you're gaining? Like, do you have a real reason for it? Do you see it beyond the sensual side of that experience, of that ideal, of the thing that you're you know, looking to do or obtain?
Yeah.
So it's like we're always looking like we're for pleasure or for pain. Like, it's like that's a thing that humans do all the time. And it's like, let's see beyond that and drop it, not take that so serious. Like, take a chance. George Carlin said it best. He's, take a fucking chance, you bunch of pussies. You know?
Gotta miss him.
Just take a chance. Like, meaning like, you know, how about you step outside the church or step outside your red or blue side of politics? Like, step outside of the government for a little bit. Step outside of society for a little bit. Don't pick a side. You know, be in suspension.
Yeah, this way you can actually figure out who you are too.
Exactly. Like, but because you think that you're going to either receive a reward or that you're going to be punished, you're actually not doing that. You're too afraid. Yeah. Or you're anticipating it. Like right now, people with crypto, it's like, oh no, I got to buy it. I got to do something because you think you're going to get rewarded. But it's like, are you really doing that because you give a shit about the crypto? Are you really doing? Are you really going after money because you give a shit about the money, or do you want the money because there's something that money will buy you that actually isn't the money?
Yeah,
and that's the real reward. You know, it's not the reward of receiving the cash or the diverting the pain of not being in poverty or of being in poverty.
The real reward is to obtain something that's going to obtain that you're going to obtain this fulfillment feeling from.
Exactly.
It's the same thing
without the pleasure or pain.
Yes, exactly. It's the same thing like you were saying with the bum with the $5. Yeah, you may need that $5 in the moment. You know, maybe that's the only $5 you have on you in the moment. But say
you might have just saved that bum's life.
Yeah, but you get exactly. So you gave it to him, right? Who you knew, and that changed your thought, that changed your mindset. And you're saying he probably needs it more than me. And then you're also going into alternative circumstances for yourself, where you're like, well, you know what? Okay, I did have a light lunch already and stuff, so I'll be fine. And oh wait, you know what? There's that can of food at home. I could make that or whatever. Say whatever, you're dirt poor and stuff. So you see what I mean? But you allowed, because you made that action and you did it on the basis of not needing a reward, but you did it in something that's more harmonious. One, not only do you have the feeling of being like, oh, well, I helped somebody out. I did something good, and allows you to feel obviously a little bit better about yourself too. You know,
spiritual currency.
Yes, yes, that's a great way to put it. Spiritual currency. But then on top of it, you were able to, because of that situation, you were able to go into other realms of possibilities and be like, oh, well, wait a minute. There's a can of fucking corn at the house that I can make, you know, whatever.
Or, oh man, you know what? Here's a better example. It's like, yeah, you could say that. Or it's like, you know what? I only got $5 in my pocket. And, you know, yesterday I bought that $30 bottle of vodka,
yes,
and I drank it in one day, and I spent that $30 on something so useless. Like maybe the $5 wasn't the issue. I could have helped someone out, but I was indulging in some selfish, stupid thing. And it's like, maybe I should spend my money and my time more wisely. So something like that situation, that's what a compassionate and aware human being would think of. It's like, man, the $5 in the bum wasn't the issue. I actually helped someone out. It was a good deed. But man, yesterday I spent so much money on food, and I bought some booze, and I tried to get laid, and I bought this girl like some stuff, and she, you know, nothing even happened, and I wasted all my time and my energy on things that didn't matter because I was chasing the pleasure.
Yeah, that's that teachable lesson. That's where you learned something from all that. And now it's just the fact that, are you going to take that lesson into consideration throughout other times as well, to be able to make better decisions in that sense for yourself, so that you aren't feeling like you're living in lack all the time, and that so you can do things like be helpful to other people and to yourself, you know? So
yes. So ask yourself though, then, right? So your ideals, your politics, your religions, everything that you're thinking of, is it because of that pleasure and pain paradigm and dynamic? Or is it because you're truly doing it for yourself and the things that really truly matter to you? You know, is it something that you're gaining from it? Or is it something that you're doing to know that you're gaining that spiritual currency, that like feeling of, I'm more in touch with life and truth and compassion and things that really do matter, without myself being too concerned about the sensual and the sensual side, like the senses, and the things I'm going to experience. Like, am I going to church because I really believe in God and that I give a shit? Or am I going because I think I'm either going to prevent myself from being punished, or I'm going to be rewarded with a harp and Jesus giving me a pat on the back after this life? Like, are you truly thinking about these things? And that's why, once again, meditation, dropping definitions, dropping ideals, being suspended, take a fucking chance, got a bunch of goddamn pussies, and just, instead of being worried about what you're going to gain or what you're going to lose, just take the chance, experience these things, because you don't know what's on the other side of that experience.
Yeah.
You know, stop living life with this cookie cutter mindset that these things are laid out for you already. You know, it's the whole point of why we go into all this stuff that we go into with religions and everything. We like to sit in that transcendent space of we're above these things, looking down at them and just observing them from the sky and having that control and saying, is this really where I want to fly down to and land and sit and post up? You know, you have the ability to do that when you go back up into, you know, the air of all possibilities, looking down at all these things, opposed to being caught in the, you know, in the midst of something that wasn't good for you.
I mean, there's something magical and mystical about being able to weave in and out of the quantum possibilities all the time, you know, and it takes doing these certain practices and just in your daily life. And that's the thing, it's being able to realize them and be aware of them, that it's not necessarily always going to be something that you're doing sitting in a book or watching a video or in a meditation too. It's things that could just be occurring in everyday normal life while you're in your car, while you're having that interaction with somebody on the street. It's being able to be aware of those occurrences and seeing that side of it there, and to be able to, you're gaining something in that way where you're gaining a lesson as long as you're aware to it as well. There was something I was going to say. I don't remember now. But, you know, with everything that we're saying, it's... Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to say. So, you know, what you were saying before about the whole thing is like, you know, with the ideals, and I was thinking about the political stuff, right? So there is certain things that are ideals of political parties that, because I could just hear somebody saying it, that there are certain ideals in political parties that people truly do strongly feel and believe in, and it's their truth they really feel, or whatever. For example, somebody who's either pro-life or pro-choice, you know, that's one thing. Somebody may really feel that it's wrong to abort babies and it's a human right, or somebody thinks it's completely wrong for somebody to dictate how somebody controls their health. It's kind of funny. Currently what we're dealing with and stuff too, but I'm not going to get into that. But anyway, So, you know, but here's the thing. Yes, that's fine. But do you need to necessarily identify yourself so much with this idealistic group? Or can you truly fight for the idea itself? You know? And how can you do that? Do you feel like you really need to represent this political group in order to do that, just to be able to get that one thing? But when meantime, in that political group, there may be other things you disagree with. No, you can advocate for your truth within it, and you can find ways to do that. But I think people don't. They take the cop out and they just be like, oh, well, I'm going to swing this way on this pendulum and be with these types of people because one of those things that they fight for is something that I truly believe in. And therefore, I just feel like that's not really getting anything. That's not really getting anything done, you know, because there's still opposing beliefs within that group or that structure. So instead,
anything can be destroyed.
Yeah,
belief wise. Yeah,
so it's like and I feel like maybe it'll get washed over, and you'll be constantly trying to find this struggle of advocating for it, but it's not of that importance so much. Maybe in that group, it's a part of that group, but it's not the whole group. So instead, you can find ways to remove yourself from that group and advocate for the direct thing that it is that what you wish to you know, really advocate for. So if you're pro-choice or something like that, you don't have to necessarily sit there and go to Republican rallies and this and stuff like that and waste your time in certain ways. You can sit there and actually advocate it and teach people in a certain way. People who actually, you know, you could be going towards being somebody who teaches somebody about why pro-choice is a good thing or why pro-life is a good thing, anything, you know what I mean? Instead of having to swing into those groups and just yell out a bunch of absurdities and stuff and yelling and stuff when you're not really getting anything done. Instead, you could really be going into advocate by going into local parts of your communities, whether it's standing up for something that's actually going on at the moment and concerning that, or to be able to, for people that maybe are not so sure on that subject, say if you're pro-life or something like that, maybe it's young mothers or something like that, young mothers whatever that are in a group or a class and stuff, and you can find a way to join that class and be able to teach that thing and to be like, hey, like, here's something to consider. I feel like that'd be more effective. So, and it's just a wild example, but that's what I mean. It's like you don't have to attach yourself to this group, because then also you're getting that vibrational influence from that group, when meantime only 1/10 of it might be something that you really resonate with. So therefore you're allowing the other parts of it to consume you as well. And then you could also be losing your own ideals because of the fact that you feel so identified with the group, but you really don't. You're not with the group. You identify with the one thing, but now you're in the group and you feel like there's a sort of acceptance because you think that they're accepting what you're saying. They may be accepting what you're saying and what your belief is and stuff, but who's to say that they're not going against everything else that you believe in too? You don't know that because you're getting lost in the crowd pretty much. So that's something to consider.
Well, when I was saying before, like with things can be destroyed really quickly, like it could do. This is where when people try and lock in beliefs and ideals, it's like you could take situations like abortions, right? Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of people end up having kids just by being irresponsible. Mm-hmm. But what happens to the rapist that got the girl pregnant?
Yeah.
And it's not her kid and she doesn't want to have the kid. And it's like, but now there's these rules and these ideals say one side won over the other, whatever happens to be the more dominant.
Yeah.
And it's like, my thing is with a lot of this stuff is you're always going to have someone that's going to be screwed.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just
someone's
life.
Not going to be happy.
But I think if we learn that there is this divine wave of experience where things are meant to happen, or at least we could treat them that way, it's like sometimes life just happens. That's it. It just happens. And when we try and lock each other's ideals into one another's lives, and we try and tell people what to think and do, it's like, yeah, in this subjective moment present right now, you were right maybe. Like you had more of this righteous and justified reason to make this ideal be, say, a law, or like something that's of like the common thought, like of people actually saying, okay, this is what needs to be done with that situation. But things change. And that's the beauty of life, is that things change. And when we try and lock ourselves into certain ideals and we think we know it all and we think that we have the answer, well, your answer could be right today and wrong tomorrow. And that's how crazy life is.
Yeah.
So something that you believe about yourself or about your religion or about your politics could be right today, but tomorrow it could be wrong. So point being is, it doesn't mean to not try and work those things out and go after what it is you truly believe in when it comes into the most inner part of your ideal, like of what you're really chasing for, whether it is true righteousness or justification or whatever. But that could change tomorrow. So just don't get attached to these ideas. It teaches me, right, to be more malleable, to be more adaptable. Honestly, I'm a Gemini Sun Sag rising. I'm literally nothing but malleable. And maybe people can learn something from that. It's like not being so locked in, because what's true for you today could be false for you tomorrow, or false for the rest. You could be screwing someone else over because you think the way that you're thinking was right, and that's the way it should be completely for now, kaput, no questions about it. It's like, let's step outside of these things. Let's step outside of our beliefs and truly be in that suspension and allow life to be as is, and you'll take all the pressure off of you and everyone else around you and us and everybody.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's the thing. So, back with where we're going with this is really about you and finding what is most profound about you and where you are now, not where you've been. I mean, those are good things to reflect on and stuff. If you're going to reflect them on in a way that you can see the improvement, or you can see where you can improve, but what's profound about you now? You have to find that within you to give that engine a rev to be able to go into this higher direction. It's not necessarily always associated with something like the path to, this place of heaven or this avoidance of hell. That's such a vague part of it as well, because we're like, a good majority of life is here. It's here now. If we're to focus on that, you're taking away from the moment itself. we're like a fucking pop-up on a computer, just we pop up in this world and then boop, we're gone.
We are one like blink in the eyes of eternity.
Yeah. That's
our
it.
lives. One little blink. We are a half a blink. It's nothing. Your lifetime's nothing. And while you're here, might as well enjoy it. So just like what I've noticed, the pattern of all our episodes, or a lot of it, is like I sense an underlying foundation of let's kick the beliefs. Like let's just experience things and experience these, whether it's concepts and ideals or just considerations and exploring things, transcending them, being above them, not being caught up in them. And so when it comes down to when we go in to talk about religions, no, we're not talking about just the existence of God or Jesus or some guy or this and that. It's these deeper meanings, like these speculative things about everything we want to talk about. Like, let's just talk about it. Mm-hmm. Dude, the flat earth, like, let's just talk about it. Yeah. Stop discrediting it. If you can't prove that it's a globe, shut up. Well, just listen.
I think that's the reason why we go into talking about these underlying beliefs and releasing ourselves from them, not necessarily to be like, oh, because beliefs are wrong. It's because of the fact that there's so much tension that ends up coming up with it and division. And that's the thing that we're constantly complaining about in this world, is that there's division and tension and argument and violence and all these things. And just like all these religions and political sides and activists and whatever they may be are trying to achieve, they're trying to achieve this bliss or this peace on earth or this, what the hell was the word again? Eudaimonia. Yeah. So they're trying to achieve these things, but like literally they don't understand how they're perpetuating the situation to create the division itself. And sometimes it's intentional. And a lot of people are woken up to that, but there's also a lot of people that aren't, that do follow these things because they think and they believe that following this certain group or religion or idea or anything is going to be the answer to combating the opposing idea of which, but that's just creating more opposition.
Calling your mainstream news channel and trying to get your story put on the news and trying to make this big difference in this and that. It's like, dude, just worry about your medium. I think it's so stupid.
You have the power of communication.
But this is my belief, right? This is something that I at least think of reoccurringly, because that's what a belief is, right? Something we just think of over and over again. And there's something I watch, like the global stage and the news and people trying to get their stories on, and we want to make a difference. It's like, yeah, of course, all that, like, of course humans want to make things better. Like, it's natural for us to want to evolve and fix things and make things better. And of course, there's other people that want to destroy because there's polarity. But like, the thing is like, let's worry about our immediate environments more than trying to get our story out and to be famous or be seen or be heard. It's like, the biggest differences will be made in those small moments. That moment with the bum, right? Mm-hmm. Or maybe being nicer to the police officer that was giving you an attitude and being the bigger person. Yeah. Like, whatever it is, it's about like you're in the moment.
Yeah.
Moments. Like, it's not about like, oh, well, we just started a protest. Like, look what just happened with BLM. And I'll just say it straight out. Lady from BLM bought a $1.4 million house when she could have been buying people in neighborhoods.
None of that money got circulated back in. No. None of the Democrats did anything either.
So that's where your ideals got you. That's what you did. You bought some lady a $1.4 million house. That's it. That's all that went.
And now you're upset.
And what difference? Played. And what difference did it make other than, a few signs were held up and a few things were happening, but there's still shit going on. Yep. And it's just something that I don't think can just go away. It's like, it's a part of life and we have to work through it. But we're so worried about the media and the glamour and the drama. Get the hell out of our own way. Just make the difference. Like, you be the difference. Like, obviously, if you want to make the difference, instead of trying to join the club and trying to make it this glamorous big old thing that happens, just do it. Just do it,
Just do it.
If you're going to just do it. And then if you're going to, you want to start something where you commune and you want to have this big community of people and network. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying we glamorize it. We dramatize it. We make it like the media makes it like a fucking movie. It's like WWE wrestling. The people with their fucking entrance musics and their you got the fans holding up the signs like, yeah, fucking cheer. And I'm like, I picked that guy. I want him to win the match, and it's like, that's what it ends up becoming. And like, maybe that has something to do with our conditioning. I think I've said this before, like we grow up watching sports and some people watch wrestling and we watch all these competitive things and we're trained to see things as my side versus your side and I'm going to win and whatever. And we glamorize it and dramatize it and make it, and then it becomes emotional and then emotions become, then our ideals are mixed in with our emotions, and then now we have enemies. Yeah. And that's just not the answer. So we have it all asked backwards, and it's about suspending those beliefs and suspending our ideals and really making it about what's right in the moment and becoming present. And then it starts right back into what we were talking about at the beginning with drop everything, meditate, and let things just be for a little while and really think it out. Like, just get out of your emotional body and just be,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the thing. Like, you're here now. Like, there's stop feeding into it, and stop making any place or thing better than what's here or just here in general on earth, because that has this sense of, when you're looking at the grass being greener on the other side all the time, it creates this ungratefulness. And it's this ungratefulness for participating in this life right here and right now. And doing that gives off those emotions when you're ungrateful or you feel like you're in lack then. And all of a sudden that means you have animosity and you're angry or whatever. And then you're just putting that back in. Putting back that back into the cycle because you're now in that state, you're in that belief, and you're holding that while interacting with the world. That's the thing, to come to the realization that you're not suffering your life, you're suffering the memories you have within this life and your own imagination. So you're literally only suffering your own intelligence. So you need to either smarten up or to release some things of which that you thought were intelligence, or you thought were intellectual things to do. And maybe just all around release the intellectual part of certain things and to stop thinking so much. Could be. Only you are going to realize that by sitting there and doing the work and looking at yourself. Maybe hard, maybe a little shitty, scary, not feel good at first, but you got to break through that.
Yeah. Yeah. So think of, the next coming episodes, and what we go into is, come explore things with us. Mm-hmm. Like, let's have fun. Let's have fun talking about certain subjects. Like, if it's about religion and you have one, it's not about belief. Like, just, we're going to talk about it. We, being the spiritual mediators, like, just, what if the answer lies in those things that you need to hear? What if it is just the discussion and something sparks? Like, you could still believe whatever it is you believe, but you might hear something that you needed to hear. So hear people out, sit and listen. I love sitting and listening to multiple podcasts and hearing different perspectives, and because then it just expands my imagination. It goes back into that too. I'm practicing thinking other thoughts. Like, let's just not get stale. We can get out of our depression and our anxieties and our rage towards the world by just maybe exploring new ways of thinking. Get out of the box, start to meditate, do these things, learn about the body, learn about energy. Obviously we know it's there. All of these teachings and things last through thousands of years and they all link up to certain things. It's like, explore that. Like, and maybe you come up with your own definition. Maybe, what if you, like someone out there listening, that you end up listening to, you step outside your beliefs and you start exploring something and you find the answer that someone else that was looking for, like say there was an answer in another religion or like whatever, you connected dots somewhere else and your mind was needed to get to that destination, and all you had to do was get out of your own way and get out of your own beliefs, and you ended up doing something good for a bigger purpose. And it had nothing to do with what you were believing in. Yeah. Like, what if that something that you're needed for, that's really important for the good of the world and the good for yourself, like let's say you're somewhat selfish, like if it's just for you and your family, What if that good that needs to happen comes from stepping outside your own beliefs? And we as a civilization, as a society, as a human race, just need to get out of our own way, get out of our heads, and learn to listen to each other more, and not react and be so emotional with what we think is right. You know, listen to some fucking flat earther. Go listen to another religion. Go read a book about psychology, even if you're not interested in it. I'm not saying the ones that you find in a textbook in a college. Go, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. Broadcasters use that. It's a very interesting topic. Relationship psychology, traumas, whatever, spiritually, dark night of the soul.
Look up
shadow self.
Look up the political structure. Look up political. The political game. That too.
Learn. Yeah. Go learn something. And that'll help you expand your mind, and maybe it'll get you out of your funk. And that's what we're going to be here for. And that's what we're going to bring. Until you go find your own topics, come and listen to us, and come hang out with us, and listen to us find those topics for you. And when we choose something every week, we're picking it because we think that you're going to find it interesting because we found it interesting, And sometimes even we pick topics that we don't even find that interesting, but it's like, I think someone needs to hear it. Or like, this should be talked about. It could be right. So it's just for the sake of enjoying thought. Like, let's enjoy our thoughts and explore, and we could do it together.
Yeah. Let's use what we were given, our God-given right to use it too. So going forward, we are going to break down a lot of these different esoteric and occult traditions and teachings that are available to go into, because we really do feel that there is something to be said, whether it's allegorical or not, that really puts it back to the use of doing the things that we said within ourselves, and seeing how this is something that's been said for the longest of time, and to show its own simplicity in the allegories. And to really break it down to see that it moves past believing anything. It moves past any sort of religion, or even to be so intellectually knowledgeable about some sort of scientific fact and everything. All that stuff is great. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's also, there needs to be a connectivity to it in the mystical sense. That's the reason why it's written in a mystical language, and a lot of times the mystical language has been taken out of these texts. So therefore, we do have to decipher them in a different way. We just have to decipher them now to this point because of the revisions and translations of a lot of these things. So that's why we feel it's important right now to go into that. But even with moving forward with that, once again, if there's a topic specific you want to hear, anything at all, because we're open to it and we like to discuss, and to also even do a discussion and talk with you about it. We always say, shoot us an email, let us know, tell us a little about yourself too, and what brought you to wanting to have an interest in that topic or wanting us to talk about it. So the email's thedailytranscendence@gmail.com, all together, thedailytranscendence@gmail.com. You can email us there, with anything you like. Also let us know what you think of the show. You could always give us a review, whether it's the email or on, I know Apple Podcasts, you could do it there as well. So let us know. As always, follow our social media pages, subscribe. Our YouTube's up. More is going to be coming with that as well. And same thing, eventually getting into more content and more specifically. So,
we're learning right now. Like, we're going to do more videos and stuff. And I actually have to buy a new Mac, and we're working with just slight limitations, but we're getting there. And so, the Patreon will be up. We actually want to get on Rockfin, ROKFIN. I know Sam Tripoli and his podcasts are on there. Globebusters is on there. Bunch of people that we look up to. So we want to get our content is we're working on getting expanded. We're working at our own pace. So if there's times where we look like we're slacking, it is only the two of us. Gio works on the 4 or 5 days out of the week. I just moved to Florida. I had limitations with space. So we're working with what we got. We got everything going, and we have a lot in store for at least the topics of the podcast and a lot of information. So next week is going to be, we're going to be going back into some more religious and biblical stuff, spiritual teachings, allegories of the body, maybe even some things with the age, you know, back into the age of Aquarius and stuff. And we'll expand on that again, and we're going to have fun. It's going to be another fun discussion. Yeah.
We're going to cross-reference them too as well. And so it's this way we can bring that wider range of perspective as well. So yeah, just like Ray said, just connect with us on all our platforms and stuff. This way you make sure to stay up to date if there's anything we start coming out with as well. Like you said, the Patreon's up. Patreon's up, but right now there's no bonus content yet. But of course, like we said, we're moving towards that direction. You want to support the show, you could always do that as well. And we'd greatly appreciate it. But until then, next time.